Okay, so this is a video that's a rebuttal to Calvinist argument on John 17. They're saying that, of course, they quote the verse where Jesus is only praying for those who are with him, basically. And they're suggesting that, see, Jesus isn't praying for the world, he's just praying for his believers. The problem with this argument is that the context is not talking about generally believers. It's talking about only his disciples, the 11 that were with him, and possibly the woman that were also with him as well, but specifically the 11. And there's a few reasons why in this chapter. I'm going to explain to you. It says, first, for John 17:8, it says, "The words that you have given me I have given to them, and they have received them, and come to know in truth that I am come forth from you, and they have believed that you have sent me." Well, this is a direct, prayer response from chapter 16, verse 30. In chapter 16, verse 30, Jesus was having a conversation with his disciples privately, and he was telling them certain things about himself, and they answered him and said, "Now we know that you know all things and have no need for anyone to question you, and this is why we believe that you have come forth from God." So in reverting back to chapter 17 again, in verse 12 it says, "While I was with them, I protected them in your name, which you have given me. I have guarded them, and not one of them was lost, except the son of destruction, that the scriptures might be fulfilled." So there you go. He's clearly again acknowledging his disciples here. Now this is interesting because when you flip now to chapter 18, verse 8 and 9, it says, when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane and being arrested, Jesus says to the guards, Jesus replied, "I told you that I am he, so if you are looking for me, let these men go." Well, which men are that? Well, that's obviously his disciples. This was to fulfill the word that he had spoken, "I have not lost a single one of them whom you have given me." So this is directly related to what just was spoken of in chapter 17. Then going back again to chapter 17, Calvinists usually completely ignore verse 20, because they're all suggesting, well, oh, look, Jesus was guarding them, and Jesus had picked them, and they go to John 6 to suggest that, they were given to him regardless of their choice, etc., etc. And in 17:20, it says, "It is not only for these that I am interceding, but also for those who will come to believe in me through their word." Well, isn't that interesting? Because Calvinists will say, well, we're elected, unconditionally, and there's nothing that we can do about it. The elect are chosen, and that's it. Well, Jesus is here saying that those will come to believe in him through the disciples' words, not from the Father choosing them and giving them to the Son. So this is clearly talking about other believers. So he's talking about generally anyone who's going to come to know and believe in Christ through listening and hearing the words of the disciples. This is completely un-Calvinistic in its approach. So there's nothing to stand on here, no ground to stand on here for Calvinists in this passage. The passage is clearly talking about his disciples. In another verse there in chapter 17, it talks about the men that he was with them, and then he's going to be leaving the world, and they're going to be staying behind. Well, he's clearly talking about the men he was with in the world. He's not talking about us. He's not talking, Jesus wasn't with us walking around on the earth and then going back to the Father. He was talking about his disciples. That's the context of what's going on here. So to rip that out and try to say, oh, well, Jesus is only praying for his elect here and not for anybody else. So it's clearly Jesus is only chosen certain people and not others. It's just a fallacy. And so I challenge anyone to read this passage and, comment about it. Tell me what you think about this. Am I wrong? And tell me where I'm wrong. But clearly read the passage. It's clearly directed towards his disciples. And the fact that the prophecy that he just said in 17 about not losing them, and in 18 the prophecy being fulfilled, clearly indicating his disciples here, has nothing to do with us. Yes, of course, in 17:3, that we may know him, the one true God. Of course, that's a universal application. But to try to take these texts and to make them something else to suit your doctrine is very dangerous. And I would say just read the passage for what it is. From 16, the end of 16, around middle of 16, on to 17 and 18, you'll see it's a continuous line of events going on, and it's a historical event, and it has everything to do with the disciples and nothing to do with some unconditional election type of proof text for this passage. Anyway, if you like my stuff, please subscribe to me. And you can get more of my videos. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos. I've been kind of off for a little while. I had a daughter was just born a couple months ago, so I took some time off videos and stuff like that. I was kind of busy with that. So I'm going to try to start doing more videos, especially stuff on Calvinism. Open up the debate. I'm all about debating. I'm all about discussing these things. We should be able to discuss these things as Christians and not sit there and say, oh, you're not saved, or I'm not saved, or whatever kind of thing. So let's do this in love, guys. Let's do this truthfully. And I'm just here to try to show the truth. And if I'm wrong, prove me wrong. I'm good for it. Thanks again. Take care.